Hi there and welcome to Podcrash number 18. Our guest this week is Aimee Fuller. She's a two-time Olympian. She's done big air, slopestyle, been to the X Games, also a fellow Team GB Athlete Commission member. So welcome, Aimee.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Usually our guests have to be prompted to say hello, so I'm glad that you're like on it to start with.
They have to be prompted to say hello.
Yeah, our classic line is usually like, and say hello, and then they go like, hi.
Oh yeah, you're definitely not going to have any troubles with me with regards to that.
Amy's pretty outgoing, as I'm sure we'll get into it at some point. I also forgot to mention in the last podcast that it was actually my birthday. It's not my birthday on the day of recording, but it was last time. But it seemed a bit insignificant given the content we were going over with Dave Smith. Mm-hmm. So you want to wish me a happy birthday, Phil?
I'm all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll wish you happy birthday.
Oh, thanks. 27 years old. Getting there.
How do you feel about that?
I'm edging towards 30. It's really bad, isn't it?
Nah, it's still young.
Yeah. No, but you think this about everything. That's why you're not engaged to your 6-year long relationship girlfriend.
There's no rush. We stay young.
What do you think, Aimee?
I say I feel like Peter Pan, but yeah, the years are increasing far too rapidly.
How old are you now?
You're not meant to ask.
Yeah, you're not supposed to ask ladies. Well, shall we say my television age is 22.
Oh.
But my sporting body age is probably about 35. Having been through all of the physical abuse that goes along with my sport.
Yeah.
Well, that's my excuse when people, because everyone thinks I'm older. I'm like, Scotland has pretty tough winters. That's my excuse.
You've been called a dad once, haven't you?
Yeah, that was the worst day of my life. So this is when I decided I wasn't going to go to fetish parties anymore. But a lot of the guys in the team are quite young. So we went on a night out with them, and we had to go, like, after we went to this fetish party, we were going to be going to this place in Manchester, which only lets you in if it's like one guy, one girl, you have to wear shoes and a shirt, all that kind of wanky shit. So I went to this like fetish party, and then like this guy stumbles out the toilet. He was like blind drunk. And then I turn around and literally the whole party's for some reason there. Then he went, fuck me, who built the dad?
Oh dear.
Gutted.
The daddy of British cycling.
Dad of British cycling.
Is that what we're calling you now?
Yeah, it's gutting.
To be fair, you're probably the oldest ones of British cycling. Well, I am.
Ed's the old man of the team.
Yeah, Ed's the oldest. He's like 34 now, 35.
Yeah, well, when Jason retired for like a year, I was the oldest in the sprint scene.
Yeah.
At 25 or something. It's ridiculous.
It used to be like Chris was like 36.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll get into the interview with Aimee, unless Phil's got any news.
Zero news.
As usual.
Yeah.
So Aimee, like how do you, I guess the question we ask most of our guests is like, how do you actually get into snowboarding? How do you get into competitive snowboarding?
I think snowboarding is very different to many sports. Actually kind of similar to cycling in the sense that it's something you can do purely recreationally, unlike some of the other Olympic sports. I have a background in motocross. I started on a quad bike at the age of 4, motocross at the age of 6. I skied from the age of 4 on Bromley Dry ski slope, and I did gymnastics for a couple of years. So if you combine all of those, the process of reading lines and transitions in motocross, and then the aerial ability from gymnastics, you've kind of got the perfect base for snowboarding. But essentially it started on the dry slope. And then when I was 12, I moved to the US for 3.5 years, hung up 2 sticks, which was my skis. That's for you, Phil. And fell in love with the sport of snowboarding, and it's just grown from there.
Awesome. So like, was there, like, going back to the motocross and the quad biking, was that like an influence within your family? Because like, yeah, I desperately wanted a quad bike when I was young. Like after Sky TV, I was pretty much like, that was my number one aim with my mum, to get me a quad bike. I love that shit.
I think every boy in that age would love to have a quad bike, wouldn't they?
Even you, but you're a bit of a cautious Callow.
Nah, I would have loved one. Maybe it would have changed me.
It would have. You're very risk averse, so you'd hate.
I don't like risk.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, absolutely hates it. Like genuinely goes out his way to avoid it.
I must have had some traumatic experience back
in your previous life.
Maybe, yeah.
So, like, to illustrate the story, like we were once, I won't say who else was involved, but we got in trouble with the police at Niagara Falls, and basically, like, there was a very low fence around the falls,
Yeah.
and it said like danger. It didn't say do not go over the fence.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this is a bit shit. I'm too far away. And like, I grew up in Scotland. You can go as close to a waterfall as you want.
Yeah.
So I went over, got a nice pic and all this kind of stuff. And so did a few other people who I won't mention names. Everyone apart from Phil, because he thought it was too dangerous. And you should just stay behind the fence.
It was right at the edge. The stones were wet, and there was like a 50-foot or even it was like 100-foot fall.
Fences are made to be jumped over, especially in our sport.
Oh, no.
It's a feature on the course.
That was the name of our official offence. We got like a fine for jumping a fence because they thought it was some kind of suicide attempt or something like that, which on reflection makes a lot of sense. But anyway, so yeah, how did you get into like the quad bikes and motocross and stuff like that?
So my dad, I guess you could say, is a bit of a petrol head. He has always had or wanted to have a bike. He used to do motocross himself. My mum was never the biggest fan of it. So occasionally he would, have a bike for a couple of years, sell it, and then another one would randomly turn up in his friend's garage and he'd store it there. But yeah, I suppose my dad, I was the first child, being the girl. He treated me no differently, which I massively respect now, and bought me a quad bike at the age of 4 to see if I was any good at it. It turned out the quad bike was too slow for the track and I wanted to keep up with the boys. So we swapped the 50cc quad bike for, KTM 50cc motocross bike. And I eventually managed to keep up with the boys and started racing and sort of went from there, really.
So that was quite a big influence in your life. You kind of grew up more or less as like a tomboy, basically. Like, forget if you go on like looks, I guess, like none of my people expect, like, let's say like a blonde girl to be taking up motocross and quad bike and all that kind of stuff. Like, I guess you just felt like one of the guys in that instance.
Yeah, I suppose now that's one thing that's kind of talked about is the sort of gender separation and segmentation in sport. But the way I've been brought up, I've never felt that because I've just felt as though I'm a part of whatever it is I'm doing, and there's been a mutual respect amongst the sports I've done. And I suppose you could say I've never been shy of, sticking my elbow in and getting involved. It was adamant throughout my short time doing motocross that the boys always wanted to beat me because they didn't want to get beaten by the girl. But my dad and my granddad just brought me up as to get involved and ride to the best of my ability. They were never pushy parents. They were just supportive. And I think that's helped me develop myself as an athlete, as I've never thought of myself as any different to the guys, which essentially I think has helped me push my own progression.
Is it from quite a young age then you've always had that bit of your kind of brain missing that tells you, what if I wipe out 50 feet in the air and everything goes wrong? Well,
when I was 8, actually, I had a pretty nasty crash, and my mum was never a fan of me doing the motocross, and I was going bigger and bigger on this particular tabletop, so much so that I cleared the whole tabletop. Back tire touched down in the gully of the tabletop and flipped over the handlebars, and I was thrown like a rag doll. And since that moment, motocross stopped for me at the age of 8.
Okay.
My mum didn't want me to have anything to do with it. She thought it was too dangerous, and that was essentially what I think my mum was, so fearful of. So then they pulled me from the sport, and then I started gymnastics, which was obviously a little bit more concealed in terms of the environment, but still a dangerous sport with elements of very risky progression. And then when we moved to the States, I started the motocross again, but it just started with trail riding. So it wasn't as if I was racing against other people who could land on me.
But it's safe to say from like quite a young age, you're always pretty comfortable being in the air, I guess.
Yeah, and I think gymnastics was a huge part of it. I was never a very elegant gymnast, let's put it like that. I was for sure more of the elephant of the group, but just having good body awareness, I used to think essentially I was invincible, and until my snowboarding career developed, and so did the pile of injuries that came along with it. And of course, the fear is there, and I think fear is to be respected within within sport, especially with what I do. It is a very dangerous sport, and that is where the respect amongst peers comes from.
Well, that was a commonality that we had with Andrew Cotton on the podcast we'd done a couple ago. Was like, he says like he's got ultimate respect for like the ocean and like the power and the nature and all that kind of stuff as well, because if you don't respect it, that's when you end up in a real world of trouble, I guess. As
of course.
Phil's actually taken up mountain biking quite recently.
I have, yeah.
That sounds like it could be a bit dangerous for you, no?
How are the jumps going?
I sound really boring on this podcast. No, actually, good jumper. No, I'm getting there. The thing is, I haven't mountain biked for like 6 years, and decided to just buy an e-bike, electric mountain bike that drags me up the hills, and I get the fun out of the down hills.
Nice.
You don't have to lie. That's what dads buy when they can't get up the hills anymore.
To be fair, my brother's just bought one actually.
Nice. Honestly, it is the way forward.
I went out with my brother recently mountain biking actually, and he was like, go on one of the electric ones, and I was like, no, I want to get a workout. And I don't understand why people have the electric ones when I would do the sport to, try and get a bit of a workout and then redeem the enjoyment for going downhill. But after I saw my brother passing me at probably about 15 miles per hour faster than I could cycle up the hill.
You get a lot more runs in as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Fair play.
Okay, well, so Phil's a daredevil now. We'll move on. So why did your family move to DC?
My mum and dad moved to DC through opportunity. My dad's a builder, had some connections there, and we just had the most fantastic opportunity there. He was working in the city, and I went to the British School of Washington. We were only there for 3.5 years.
That sounds lovely, the British School of Washington.
Due to visas. The British School of Washington was fantastic. It completely, a school which, of course you start school and it's a new school, and it was quite a big thing to move to the States, but everything about it helped shape and mold me as a person, I would say, as I am today. It was very small, some amazing people, all from different countries, and there were no barriers, and sport was a very big part of what I did there. And so much so that I actually was the tested and trial run human for GCSE PE there. So I had 101 GCSE PE, which I absolutely loved. It was great experience.
So like, is it kind of like on reflection that you think it was a good thing, or like, because like I moved from just in Scotland, but moved cities like 3 times when I was growing up, and I went to about 5-6 different primary schools and stuff like that, and it was always like, I always felt pretty tough as a kid. But like when you're moving to the States, like there's no chance of like really popping back to London and seeing your mates from home or anything like that. Is that on reflection you think it was a good thing, or like as a kid was it hard?
One of the hardest things was for sure leaving. At the age of 12, I was at a point where I had established very close friends, and that's quite a tough age, I think, for girls going through, various life changes at that age. And I have to say, I was so excited about it. When I got there, I was like, what have we done? This is not what I thought it would be. And then...
What did you think? Like AK-47s and pickup trucks everywhere, pretty much.
Yeah, well, it was actually just after the time of the sniper. I don't know if you remember that.
Which one was that?
In 2007, the sniper attack, where the guy went around DC, parts of neighbouring states, Virginia and Maryland, and picked off people. So
was that when he was hiding in a car or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So like, dangerous.
Dangerous in parts, you could say, of DC. But one thing it opened my eyes to is just what a magnificent city DC is, from its diversity to the opportunities that I had there, from playing basketball to learning to essentially snowboard there. That's where my passion for snowboarding started. An hour and a half away out of DC, you've got the mountain range in Pennsylvania. You've also got the Shenandoah Mountains. At school, in the UK, we have the Duke of Edinburgh Award. There it was the Congressional Award. So we went into the Shenandoah Mountains, and just being exposed to that was phenomenal, and something that I can never recreate. Caving, all of these crazy experiences that I'm sure you can do here in the UK, but add a bit of American flavour, a little bit more dramatic and larger scale. And then, of course, doing motocross, and then wakeboarding. We had a little boat out there. Again, that was something that my dad did when he was younger. He was always, he'd buy a boat and have it for 2 months because that's all we could afford, and then sell it. But we got a little bayliner, and our weekends were filled with going out on that and learning to wakeboard and water ski. And so yeah, really just very, very grateful to have been able to have that opportunity for 3.5 years, where not only my passion for snowboarding developed and grew, that's where I got noticed by my first ever sponsor, Roxy. And it snowballed from there.
There was a snowboard camp, I read.
Yes. So for my 16th birthday, it was right before we moved back here. It was the July of 2007. And I got noticed by Erin Comstock. She was the coach on the camp. I begged my mum for half a year to send me there, and it's probably the best investment they ever made. I got noticed on the camp in the July, moved back to the UK, started school in the September. 3 days into my first week at my new school, starting my A-levels, I had a phone call when I got home. It was phone calls back then, no email, no direct phone call. Hey, is Aimee Fuller there? And my mum's like, yeah, who's speaking? It's like Stina Brun-Caldas, the European Roxy team manager. We'd love to invite your daughter out to a camp in Saas-Fee in Switzerland in 2 weeks' time. And ever since then, my life has changed forever. And Roxy have been my longest standing partner ever since, from the strange brown coloured coat they first gave me. I couldn't believe that, someone was actually giving me a jacket to wear for free,
Just so Phil knows, Roxy really does like extreme sports. It's all about like outdoor active apparel and all that kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a sister company to Quicksilver.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, cool. But I guess that's like that's going to be one of the moments where you like pinch yourself. So having like loved the sport like so much up until that point, I've got like 2 questions on that. So like, what was it about the sport that drew you in more than motocross, more than quad biking, skiing, and all that kind of stuff? And then like, how did it feel to actually have that kind of dream like realized and get that phone call? It must have been pretty surreal at that age as well.
I think snowboarding was the expression of freedom and creativity. It's a sport where there's not really many rules. It's just you and the mountain, and it's a blank canvas to do whatever you want to do. There's no track in slopestyle. It's okay, we have a run. You can go down it any way you like. And before you even get to the phase of competing in slopestyle, it's about having fun and being creative on the mountain. And it's a sport that is very social and engaging. And it's about, for me, it was about interacting with people and setting little challenges and being creative and seeing, okay, there's a little mound here in the slope. How can I maybe do a 360 on it? And it's a sport where there's a very natural progression path. And each time you go, you can try something new, which is what makes it attractive and, of course, addictive.
So how does it work? Are you the kind of person that's like amazingly like self-driven and like wants to do it for yourself, or does someone do a trick over a mound and you think, fuck it, I can do that as well, and then just get stuck in?
I'd say visually, I'm a real visual learner, so I'd see someone do something and be like, yes, I want to try that. But then it also has to be, your own inner drive to push your own progression to see what's possible. I remember one of the first times I went in DC, I was like, oh, I wonder if I can, like move the board like this. Can I do a 180? And it was like, oh, wow, actually, yeah, this could work. So it's also about like self-exploration.
So it's almost like you're kind of talking about it as if it's like a performing art almost, more than a sport.
Yeah, it's a very, very creative space. You have a blank canvas to essentially push yourself to new realms.
Can you also like invent your own tricks kind of just name them?
I mean, snowboarding's progressed pretty far, so it's quite hard to invent a new trick. There's still plenty of scope in the female snowboarding side of things at the elite level to do new tricks. The standard has been set by the males, and it's this never-ending progression to see how far the sport can go. So Billy Morgan, British snowboarder, was the first guy to do a quad cork. I don't think we're going to see a quad cork from a girl anytime soon, but we have just seen the first triple cork.
I know what a triple cork is.
What is it then?
I've seen a video of it. There was like a guy for Red Bull, and he did like this it was a skier, and he did like this spin in the air 3 times.
Yeah,
sweet. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, that's for you, Phil, just so you know what we're talking about.
I like how you're like passing it off on Phil, but you're like...
Yeah, so explain it for us in far more eloquent terms if you can.
Okay, so you have a double, which can be either a 900 degree of spin.
Okay.
So 2.5 full rotation. So you could have a cab double 9, or you could have a back double 10. So all of these are spins with a cork on the axis. But the sport has progressed so much. It's gone from like back double 1080 to backside triple 1440, and yonder into the quad cork realm, which is still fairly new territory.
And just to put this into context for like the listeners and stuff like that, like, you know, just to put it into like layman's terms, like what's the kind of maximum amount of air that you guys can get? So like Angie Cotton was like
70-foot waves.
Probably surfed like 70, 80 foot wave. I think that's been broken actually quite recently by a guy who did 120 foot.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which is like amazing.
No, I think he surfed like just under 100 foot. That was like highest wave he surfed.
Yeah.
He got like taken.
So what kind of like, do you measure that as like a height? Is that kind of a thing?
So it's not really about height or distance. It's more about the skill you're performing.
But more height, more times through the skill.
Yeah. So essentially the bigger the jump, the bigger the trick that's possible. And also the more time, which means you can make it look good. Because snowboarding is all about the way it looks as well. It's a little bit like gymnastics in that sense. The biggest jump I've probably hit is probably around 32 meters, which is absolutely whopping. It's huge. God, it gives me goosebumps even talking about it. And
you landed it, I guess.
Yeah, I landed it. Yeah. I did a backflip over it. But yeah, it's in the Olympics we're riding jumps from sort of 18 to 25 meters maximum, depending on how far you take it down the landing. But yeah, on these photo shoots, you see that's a big part of our sport as well, is the creative element, is going and shooting photos or film. And it's where you get like, you know, a jump that's carved out like a work of art, and it'll be huge. And we film on there and create some. Yeah.
And when you're floating in air, I guess, like, is that just a bit of a blur, or does it actually, is it quite calming, or like what's going through your head when you're pulling like a backflip over a 32 meter jump?
On the in run.
Yeah.
I'd say that's probably the most nerve-wracking bit. You know, you drop in and you have to commit to it. There's full focus, 100%. And on your way up the kicker, every edge, every transition from edge to edge of your board is critical. And the takeoff is the critical moment. The moment you've left the jump, you know if it's going to be a smooth flight or not. So if all things have gone well in the takeoff, you've pushed through the compression of the jump, you can see the distance, you can see the landing, you've taken off at the right time, the snap in your board is at the right moment, it's like floating. It's very peaceful, it's very calm, and everything's very smooth. If you catch an edge on the takeoff and it throws you off, I can't really describe anything worse than that. It's just 2 to 3 seconds of sheer panic. And it's like, right? Do I roll with it? How do I get out of it? And that's one of the arts of snowboarding, is being able to fall well.
I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to be difficult for people to understand, because like I actually try and say it on the track a little bit as well, because people come into this new venue, it's a 48-degree banking, and people are like this is terrifying. Like, how can you actually do it? But once you get used to it, it's actually like a really peaceful place to be. And I guess that's kind of the message you're trying to get across to snowboarders as well, is or people who are thinking about it. Yeah, is that, you know, once you are in that like zone and flipping through the air and all that kind of stuff, it is actually quite a nice place to be.
And there's so much work that's done before it, like the level of progression that you acclimatize to these bigger features. So anybody can go snowboarding and go off a jump that's 0.5 meter. But each time you go, and this is what's so attractive about it, it's like, could I go 0.5 meter further? And I pinch myself sometimes because I'm like, how did I ever get to this point where I'm throwing myself off jumps the size of like 2-story houses? It's surreal.
You kind of like crash more than actually land the tricks, or?
No, you can't afford to crash because you'd be in hospital 90% of your life. But that's where the work is done in the background.
So you're just progressing through the tricks. Yeah.
So of course there's many injuries in snowboarding, and that's a big part of it. You're going to get hurt. Yeah. It's not a matter of if, it's when, unfortunately. So you've got to go through all of the precautions to prepare your body to be in the best possible condition to be able to deal with that. So being physically strong, flexible, and
like ready for impact as well.
Ready for impact, yeah.
Because I think that's most people come to cycling because it's like a non-impact sport. So pretty much if anyone gets injured in any sport, they tend to pop up at cycling because they're like, this could be easy, it'll be fine. Yeah. But then I'm like, having the tired now, I'm actually a bit scared of going back into like possibly a bit more of an impact sport. Like I used to play rugby as a kid, and I just think I'll get immediately injured. But so like, how do you prepare? Like, how do you actually prepare for that kind of potential impact, I guess?
So strength training obviously is a big part of it, as I'm sure it is for you guys for cycling. Core strength, also your shoulders. Surprisingly, a lot of injuries I've had have come through my shoulders. It's sort of the first thing that kind of hits the ground if you don't want to hit your head, right? As much as you can roll out of things, sometimes things just go wrong. I flew to Canada right before the qualification, right after the 2014 Winter Olympics, on a mission to conquer this particular double, which I'd learned a couple of months prior to it, but I wanted to get the consistency up. So I literally hopped on a flight in July to ride in Whistler, the glacier out there, on a mission to just go and do doubles. Third run, you might as well have like hit me with a hammer, just hooked my edge on the landing of the jump and splattered my shoulder. Grade 2 lateral ligament, boom, I was out. So that was me out for the whole summer. And sometimes the injuries in snowboarding, they happen just doing the most simple things. Like I was just riding out of the landing of the jump and there was a bump and I didn't see it and it just got me. It's like the snow snakes, we call them. But obviously the stronger you are, the more likely you are to avoid injury.
When you're about to say injured of anything, like one of my flatmate actually put his back out brushing his teeth once.
Yeah, he's got bad back issues. I remember living with.
He needs to do more core.
He does a lot of core. To be fair. He said he didn't brace enough for brushing his teeth. Yeah. Or maybe he did something else. I don't know. Maybe he had a massive nail instead.
Yeah. I remember I was living with Liam Phillips, who was a BMXer, and he had like, how many shoulder surgeries did he have? And at one time, his shoulder. It was like moving a shoulder was squeaking because he had so many operations on it.
Yeah, brutal.
And he actually had to retire because of wrist injury. Yeah.
Oh no way.
So what's the worst injury then we got?
I think fracturing my eye socket probably has got to be one of the worst. Like, I don't know if you can see if I turn sideways, I've got like a slight lump on this one.
Okay, yeah.
That was pretty bad. It wasn't even my fault, surprisingly. So now in snowboarding, we have reduced risk training environment, which is fantastic for learning skills. in terms of taking the edge of it. So it was a giant airbag. These are fairly new in our sport, 2 or 3 years. God, I wish we'd had them 8 years ago. But they're actually shaped in the form of a landing. So it's a kicker onto an airbag, essentially like a bouncy castle landing. But at the time, this was quite a new development in the sport. And they decided not to put a stopper on the end of the airbag. So each time I hit the airbag, it was raining, I went bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was landing at the bottom. And each time I was sliding off the airbag onto a wooden deck, but I was managing somehow to sort of cat my feet back under me and then just sort of plump on the wooden deck. But it must have been the 5th time. I went so big and I literally shot off this airbag. Like you can imagine, like a water slide, like Mach 10, and flew probably like 8 meters onto the corner of a wooden deck and just smashed the corner of my face. And I just consider myself lucky. Thank goodness for helmets.
You know, in like a weird kind of way, does the airbag not, like, and all that safety equipment not make the sport more dangerous?
Yeah.
Because the guys are attempting bigger and bigger jumps because they've got that safety blanket. Take that away.
Yeah, I mean, the progression in the last 3 years in the lead up to the 2018 Winter Olympics has just been astronomical. We've got, in particular, the Japanese riders. They were one of the first to have these airbags out in Japan, and they're doing backside 1260 double corks, which we'd never ever seen from a girl. So it essentially takes away some of the basics which are needed to be a good snowboarder, because that level of progression is so much faster, because you can just turn up to one of these ones and hurl the biggest tricks, and you can kind of get away with blue murder on it.
Can you still even hurt yourself if you land the wrong way on the airbag?
Completely. Because if you're on a bouncy castle and you try to do a backflip, if you land it on your head, you're still going to hurt yourself.
But like on the flexion, so you said it was like, I wish we had airbags back in the day.
Yeah.
But maybe in a way not as well.
Oh, completely. Completely. It would have taken the risk out of some of the things I've learned and done. I was the first to land a double in competition, which that took some beating and a fair few injuries along the way with that. The first time I tried it, I got it to my feet on a rebel camp in New Zealand in 2009, and then I tried it in the dew tour, and again, it was this shoulder as well. I think I did grade 2 on my rotator cuff. And I would say the airbags help you enhance progression. Yeah, like you say, and then you're able to do more because your body's been there before. But then that's where the risk of injury is. How
does the mental angle like affect you guys a little bit? Because like we had Danny McCaskill come down to the velodrome and there was like a massive like sewer pipe, and he tried to like ride all the way around it. And the guys who were watching him said that like it took him more or less all day to like build up the confidence to finally say, like, I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, I remember seeing him practicing it. He did it on the road bike as well, didn't he?
It took ages, didn't it?
Yeah, he was there all day, or for a few days, I think, even.
It's almost like a guy like about to like jump off, like, so say if you jump like tombstoning or something like that, you're jumping off a cliff and you're kind of looking over the edge and you're like, oh no, not yet. And then you're like, no, not this time. Like how does, and obviously in the Olympics, you guys have got a time slot, you have to go. Yeah,
I think one thing with progression and learning new tricks, there's never a time where you're like, I totally got this. It's the mental preparation in being like, I can do this and I'm going to do this. And there will always be something in your mind being like, oh, am I ready? But you will never, ever feel 100% ready to do something you've never done. There may be an inkling of 5%, but if you can visualize the trick, you can do it. And so it's that constant battle with yourself. You would never go up on the mountain and just be like, oh, I'm going to do this trick. There's so much preparation before it. And it's about all the things aligning at the right time to do it. So the first time I did a double, I woke up. It was sunny. The wind was down. I'd had a good sleep. I felt okay. I was nervous. You're never, ever not going to feel nervous when you try something new.
And it's just, did you ever see any people like, you know, start line of the Olympic Games, like clearly not in a good place to like go down and attempt, you know, like a triple backflip or something like that. Like, did you see any kind of people actually melting under the pressure of that? Because I think like being able to do it yourself on like a ski slope or have something organized for a shoot is kind of on your terms.
Yeah.
But the influence of like Olympic sport, which is very regimented, very like you have to go at this time for this TV slot, you have to do this and this and this.
Yeah.
Has that had a bit of an impact in the sport? As in, like, it doesn't matter if you're ready or not, you have to go.
Yeah, I mean, completely. If you look at the 2018 Winter Olympics, we saw the worst showcase of female snowboarding ever because they sent us in the wind, and you would never, ever even practice in those conditions, let alone send you into the Olympics finals. So,
because that was where you had a crash out because you said like, you know, your board caught the wind pretty badly and then that was it.
Oh, yeah. So first run,
Yeah.
I dropped in and I was told there's no way they can run it in this. And I was like, I actually thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to keep my head in the game because who knows what can happen. And the minute you clock off, you're out. You have to stay tuned into, as you guys know, as at the task in hand. And so I just kept sort of like riding through the course, wasn't hitting features because people were going down like sacks. We saw multiple injuries in practice and they were like, suddenly it's on. You guys are dropping in half an hour. We've got the TV slot. You're in, you're going. So dropped in, run one, tried to wait a little bit for the wind, just got nailed by the wind. Hit the first jump, hit the second jump, and then I pulled out of the third because there was no way I would have made it over. And I was just being smart. You know, you're not going to risk your life for, you know, it just wasn't worth it for me in the first run. And the second run, I'm like, right, okay, you've got to do this. It's the Olympic final. It's your only chance. Like, just go, give it absolute hammer and tongs. And I got slightly luckier with the wind pattern in that second run and was bombing into the last jump. I could feel the flaps of my jacket. I was down small and like a ball, you know, like pumping for speed. I was like, yes, I've got this. Like landed jump one, landed jump two. There's a rhythm, there's a flow. As I take off, it was like, whoo. It was as if someone had like attached a sail to my snowboard and it just tipped me sideways. And instead of worrying about like trying to land the trick, it became about, okay, let's just try and get your body back under control and try and find some sort of safe way to get out of this. And it was a real shame for our sport, but was there never a point? So like the BMXers probably had a similar situation at the test event at the Rio Olympic BMX track. So they all went out there and they were like, "You're kidding! Like this thing is like unrideable. Like if as soon as you send people down here, you're lucky to get one guy to finish out of the heat." Yeah. So they all refused to ride. They flown all the way to Brazil, countries from all over the world, because it was the last test event before the Olympic Games. They stuck together, had that unity. And then the track got changed before the Olympic Games. Do you think that's something we'll ever see in snow sport, or is there always someone mad enough to give it a go? Unfortunately, that was the case. Someone was like, yeah, this is fine. We can run it. Right. But looking back, how does that work? Are you fucking kidding me? It's like we can stick together. We can wait a couple of hours until the wind dies down. So some people are able to deal with the conditions, you know, they've maybe grown up in that environment. You know, there's always someone that's, you know, someone's going to land and someone's going to have a better ride than others when the weather is so changeable. But one thing that was noted about that course for the test event was that it was in a gully. It did attract wind and it was one of the major factors with the Pyeongchang Olympics. But it ran. I survived. Pretty happy to say I survived it. At the end of the day, you can always be negative, but there's always positives. I was happy to see another day. Let's just put it that way. How do you feel as if the influence of like the whole like extreme sport element in the Olympic Games has been like from my point of view, it's been pretty welcome and like it's nice to see athletes with a totally different culture. Like if you guys pull off a big jump, seems like everyone's pretty happy with each other. Whereas like if one of my competitors do a really good time, there won't be any high-fiving after that. No. Yeah, so I suppose that's where extreme sports are a little bit different. there's the culture and background of many of the sports just being started purely for enjoyment, and then suddenly they've been cast into the Olympic world, which is of course fantastic for the profile of the sports. Snowboarding in particular is a dangerous sport, so when there's progression, it's well respected amongst each other. And as a rider, you ride your best when you're riding with your peers, and we all push each other to be our best. So on the day, it's anyone's game. It's about who puts down the biggest and best trick on the day.
And we've also seen like the kind of growth of the X Games, which is, I guess, for like, as some athletes, is it fair to say that the X Games is actually bigger than the Olympics as like a major event?
In terms of internal respect within your sport, to win an X Games medal, it is the ultimate. X Games, there's 8 riders for the girls that get invited. So 8 riders in the world. So to even be included in that 8 in itself is an achievement. And it certainly was for me.
And how do they select those 8 guys?
It's pretty wild. So it could be based on riding that they've seen you do, whether it be online or whether it be at another event, seeing particular results. Say you did well in the judo, which is in December, X Games is in January. They might think, oh yeah, okay, this person's pretty good.
So it's invitational.
Yeah, not even an Olympic medal would guarantee you a place in the X Games.
What do you think is harder to win, X Games or an Olympic Games?
I mean, essentially, the Olympics, as the depth of the field is larger, but then at the X Games, you only have 4 Americans. You only have 4 Canadians.
Opposed to normally having like an Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, the X Games field could be made up out of, 7 Americans.
Oh, really? Okay, right.
Would they even sometimes let the best snowboarders at home, or would they not invite them?
Yeah, so to us, this sounds like totally alien, because we've got like a really formal qualification structure, and it's like, you know exactly where you stand, you know exactly if you're going to get in or not. And like to some points it gets quite tense. Like it's just completely like, it's a bit of kind of sliding doors and mirrors. You don't actually really know how genuinely what it takes to get an invitation.
No, there's no structure. It's like ride hard, be present, and push the sport, and you will get an X Games invite.
I guess it's similar to like Japanese keirin, like only 8 guys get an invite internationally.
But the Japanese keirin, the difference is that the Japanese keirin isn't like the most respected thing within the sport. Whereas like if the X Games is a pinnacle for you guys and it's based on an invitation and no one really knows how it works, I guess you got a basic idea.
Yeah, everyone knows. If you're riding well, you're in the mix, you're in the top 8, you're doing big tricks.
How can you be so laid back about this? I don't understand it. It's like...
yeah.
Because that's our sport. It's a free sport.
Oh,
it's
but different. It could be like if it's the biggest event.
Well, the Olympics, to me now, having gone to Olympics, I see the Olympics as, it's a huge display of our sport, and it's a fantastic opportunity, I think, for us to be included in it. And it's on the world stage, so it's world recognized, whereas X Games, not everyone knows about it, but within your sport, if you have an X Games medal, you're well respected.
So you go to the Olympics like wanting to win, or just kind of compete at the Olympics? You're just happy to be part of it.
It's different for everyone, right? Of course, I went there with the intention, particularly in big air, to aim for a top 5. It didn't go my way. But yeah, I had a fantastic time there. Yeah. I think it's magnificent to be able to represent not only your sport but your country on the world stage, and especially in the Winter Olympics, where there are more minority sports.
Yeah, my favorite one is the one where 2 guys lie on top of each other and go down a luge.
The double
luge. Yeah,
that's
it's the most German sport I've ever seen in my life.
I think the Germans are pretty good in it.
I know, of course, it makes a lot of sense. But I guess the flip side to that though is like, as much as an X Games medal is respected internally, an Olympic medal is by far and away more recognised externally.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I'll take the Olympic medal.
And in terms of like the health of the Winter Games and stuff. Like we just saw, it was a city in Italy was like one of only 2 bids to put in for the Olympic Games. Like, how do you kind of rate the health of the whole sport, I guess, in terms of the Olympic movement in a winter sport? Because it seems like it's, in a way, the Summer Games is kind of struggling a little bit for that, like, relevance today.
Yeah.
And do you think like bringing extreme sports is kind of key to keeping that relevance to younger market?
I think absolutely. I think it's important for the games to move with the times. We've just seen the inclusion of 5 new sports in the Summer Olympics, which I think is fantastic for the Olympics, and they're sports that are accessible: skateboarding, surfing, rock climbing, karate and softball. I think it's important to make the sports relatable, and I think that's what's happened with the Winter Olympics. I think snowboarding and skiing, freestyle in particular, has been a real breath of fresh air from some of the traditional sports.
So they're less stuffy. Yeah.
They're sports that are relatable. Not everyone can relate to going off a ski jump and traveling 110
I guess
meters.
there's 2 trains of thought in it though, because like you hear about breakdancing being included in the Paris Games, I think it is, and then you'll get a lot of people on the internet going like, breakdancing, like when did that become an Olympic sport?
But they're athletes, these guys, and that's what people don't see. I think there's a conventional vision of an athlete, but an athlete is someone who pushes their body beyond physical capability and does amazing things. And that's what breakdancing is. I couldn't do half the stuff these break dancers do. I don't have the pure strength to do that. So in any sport at an elite level, if there's an element of training and physical inhumane talent there, then why would it not be included? It's cool. It looks good to watch. People want to see these guys doing backflips and flipping off all sorts of stuff.
I guess if you're a kid and you're seeing this on TV, like someone doing a backflip or all these tricks, you probably think, I want to do this as well.
It's good to watch. It makes good television.
Yeah.
It's probably the survival to the games as well, ultimately. It's like to continually innovate and continually bring in new sports. It's like you can't really stand still because it's so competitive now. One of the questions I want to ask you as well is, so the British cycling team is really famous for being, that whole marginal gains thing, like super regimented. I remember getting told off once because, my coach saw me on WhatsApp at 11 o'clock at night and things like that. Like it's pretty strict. And, if, people have gotten a lot of shit before for being spotted on nights out and things like that when they shouldn't be and that kind of thing. But it seems with the extreme sports and the snow sports, it's a far more laid back attitude. You can like pick your support team a little bit more freely. You're not based in essential locations. So this will probably be as alien to us as figuring out that the biggest event in your sport is by invitation only. But we'd love to hear a little bit more about what it's like to be part of the GB Snow setup.
Okay, so I think it's safe to say things are changing and things are developing, and our system is slowly becoming more like yours. However, traditionally, there hasn't been the support of funding, and I think this happens due to success. And as of late, we've had great success in the past 2 Olympics. So things do become more structured. There's more funding. There's more hurdles that need to be sort of jumped over and boxes ticked for certain things. However, in our sport, it is important to be in the best place you can be mentally. So if that includes letting off a bit of steam every once in a while, then go do it.
I think that's kind of the same in our sport, but it's always left up to the person in charge, like opinion as to whether they think you need that to be in the best place as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not unusual it happened like maybe once a year, the coach might say, have a night out.
Yeah.
But like it was very rare that was sanctioned, I guess.
That only happened recently.
Did it?
When the coach said, go and have a night out, I think, yeah.
I think that's where you can delve a bit into mental health and in terms of, physically pushing your body to its limit and being the best you can be on your snowboard. Mentally, you have to be in a great place. So I think it's very important that whole team dynamic works. And for me, it was riding with some of the other girls from other teams because our team is small. So whether it's, stepping outside of your box and training with someone who has a positive impact on you or maybe a better snowboarder than you, then go and do what works for you. And that's, I think, what made me the snowboarder I am is because there was that freedom, which made it still enjoyable for me to push my progression.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the things I found with the BC system was that given the amount of dedication it took to get that medal and the prospect of going through the kind of same cycle again without much variation, just didn't seem like a particularly attractive prospect.
Well, it's monotonous, right? I mean, it's the same contest every year.
Kind of. So like if you have that like proper drive and passion for that first Olympic medal, you'll pretty much take whatever's thrown at you. But then once you've got it, you kind of like start to think like, is this all it was?
Yeah,
like, is that I guess so. Yeah, a little bit. But you've been quite good at like keeping going games after games after games.
Yeah, but I've have like not very successful 2 years after the games just because he's struggling with motivation because it's a long time, 4 years to just keep going.
4 years is a long time to keep hammering it out.
The worst thing I did after London was have a 2 week break and then go back into training, right? World Cups and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I should have had a longer break. And then after I won Rio, I had like a year break. Just took it easy. Callum went straight back into it pretty much. They had a couple of months off.
Yeah, a couple of months,
Yeah, but I pretty much took a year out and that was the best thing I could do. And just taking it easy, going back into training.
But I think it's fair to say, like, I don't know, it's not that I struggle with authority, but like I'm quite vocal, happy to stick my neck above the parapet and like argue my case and all that kind of stuff. And I think maybe that whole system fits with a more kind of submissive personality a little bit. Like, so we had some guys on last week from a team called Hoop Watt Bike, and they're basically going pretty much as quick as GB as an amateur team.
Oh, wow.
So they're bursting onto the amateur scene, and those guys have tried to break into the GB team. And one of the things apparently that was said to one of the athletes who's trained as an aerodynamicist at university. So that's kind of one of the keys to their success is like they understand all the kit, all the aerodynamics. That's what makes them so successful.
Yeah.
But then they got told by British Cycling that you have to choose whether you're an athlete or an engineer. You can't have both. So I think that's how they kind of view you as more like you're a physical performer, like you're a physical asset, and we'll take care of everything else and don't question it, I guess. But I guess for you, it's much more like an independent operation though, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. It's about getting yourself to the best place you can be physically and mentally, so you're ready to perform. So if that means going riding, with some friends, or finding a particular resort that you prefer the jumps in, then go there, and then they will support in the best way they can around that operation.
I think it's how the BMX freestyle is running at the moment at British Cycling.
I think it's because they don't have any other option because
But I think some of the guys actually train in Manchester and some of the guys train in America. I think they've got a choice what they want to do.
I mean, like it's difficult. It's difficult to say because on one hand, like it's the most successful Olympic track cycling team in history, pretty much. It's got the results, but like I guess the other question is like how kind of mentally healthy are your athletes and how engaged are they in the whole process as well? Like let's maybe there's more space for athletes to have a bigger voice within that area, I guess. Yeah. I'm not sure. But anyway, so let's bring it up more to the kind of like modern day stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the most like interesting things, and I was so like unbelievably jealous of this opportunity, was that you went to North Korea.
Yeah.
The DPRK.
The DPRK, is what it's known as. I had so one of my sponsors, I'll start from the top, asked me a year ago, I was standing on the 2018 London Marathon finish line with Tag Heuer, one of my sponsors, and I was having a bit of banter, and I was like, I want to do this next year rather than just stand here and watch. And Ellie was like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, cool. We'll have a spot. It came round to October. She goes, so do you actually want to run the London Marathon? Messaged my mom and said, you know what the deal is? We talked about this before, and I'm not going to do it unless you do it. And vice versa. It was an agreement we had. She's like, okay, give me a couple of days to think about it. Yep, I'm in. So we confirmed in October. It was mid-January, and I was out in Richmond Park with a friend having just done a 12-mile run. And I literally just posted online, just got lost, covered in mud, marathon training going well. No joke, an hour later, someone who I met through the 2014 Winter Olympics, used to work for Sky, now works for Olympic Channel, messaged me and said, Aimee, I see you're running the London Marathon. I've got another marathon for you to run if you want to. My initial response was, thanks, but no thanks. And she said, hear me out. So I hopped on the phone with her and she said, so we're going to North Korea. We're filming a documentary and we'd love you to run the marathon.
No, again, like, let's just get a bit of reality to this. So she said North Korea and you just let her keep speaking. You didn't go like, wait, what?
I said, tell me more, is what I said. And it was sort of put to the side and it wasn't confirmed. It wasn't confirmed because, as you can imagine, there is a lot of paperwork that needs to be done. There's not been a documentary that's come out of there for 2 or 3 years. And we were invited as guests of the Olympic Channel, being Olympians, to go to their country and run the marathon. And I can say it was probably one of the best things I've ever done, having zero connection with the outside world. And the documentary totally encompasses the power of sport and how it can unify the most isolated places. So that was an absolute whirlwind. And I came back and then ran London with my mum 10 days later. I've never run a marathon in my life. So that whole process was quite intense just to get through it mentally.
So you were completely cut off from the outside world. There was like no phones, nothing else.
No.
Did you fly down this like really, really old plane? You've seen all the documentaries.
Yeah.
So Air Koyo.
Yeah. Not like the worst airline in the world.
It's the only airline in the world to have 1 star out of 5.
Oh, you guys have done your research or watched some documentaries.
I love North Korea.
And he loves planes as well.
No, that's a secret.
I got onto the plane. So I had my burner phone, which had...
That sounds like a drug dealer term.
I had no SIM in it. And I had my GoPro, wiped everything. We left our phones, laptops, all in China, in a locker in Beijing, hopped on the Air Koyo flight, which I'll have you know, took off 2 hours late because it decided it wanted to wait for the Japanese students that are North Korean that live in Japan to land so they could get on the plane. This plane literally did exactly what it wanted, left the airport when it wanted. It does its own thing. Got on the plane and I started filming with my GoPro as I got on. And literally the moment I stepped 4 steps into the business class as such, they grabbed me and they were like, delete. And I was like, okay. So that instantly kind of like threw me off and kind of made me a little bit nervous. But yeah, it was an interesting flight, and yeah, I can say there's many stories to tell, which will be coming out in the documentary on.
Was that North Korea's like first marathon?
No. It wasn't. It was
There's one every year.
I'm going to sign up next year. Actually, no, it's the biggest week in North Korean tourism. So I think they had over 900 people.
The biggest week in North Korea tourism. So
they had around 900 people over for it. But then, of course,
that's more than I thought. Actually,
they put a time cap on the marathon. So everyone that was running the marathon that went there to run the marathon dropped down to the half. So yeah, there were about 200 of us running the full marathon. So you can imagine very, very lonely streets.
And but going back to the bit where you were grabbed on the plane and told to delete it, like that's not really a joke, because everyone knows that American college student Otto, who was detained in South Korea, and like pretty much like he had a real rough time, like plenty of mental health issues, all the rest of it. So like, they don't fuck around.
No, not at all. And I think it was almost good that happened to me straight away, because it made me respect the environment even more. But it's
because I'd be terrible in a location like that. Like I remember, I'm terrible for that shit. So like in Delhi Commonwealth Games, I quickly found out that like the culture for the security guards was just to say no, and if they say no once, they've told you, they've done their job, and they'll let you go. So it's like, no, you can't go past me. If you walk past them, that's fine. So it's you can just like live the dream. We got to hold AK-47s and everything. It was mental. Yeah.
That sounds.
You hear some horror stories coming out of North Korea. So
yeah, well, you'd be like, "Oh, can I hold this gun?" And they'd be like, "No." I'd be like, "Nah, come on." And I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." Really? It's like, yeah, it's just as long as I've said no, I've done my job, and then that's it. So like, and then obviously. Niagara Falls and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it wouldn't be the best place for me to visit, particularly.
A little bit cheeky over here. So. Lax overstepping the border.
Yeah. It's always been my ambition to like steal a golf buggy at the Olympic Village.
Was it Ed Clancy's done it?
Has he?
In London. He was pretty drunk.
What happens on tour stays on tour, guys.
Keep going anyway.
I just remember we were talking to this lovely policewoman. And he only drove like 5 meters or 10 meters. I remember the policewoman on her bike chased the golf buggy. Yeah.
The closest I got was I managed to steal like one of these sit-on floor cleaners at the Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games. As close as I got.
Yeah.
One day I'll get that golf buggy.
Yeah, one day.
But so like tell us about like just like being in the streets. So like there's no shop signs, like, or does it just feel like a normal city? Like
I can safely say it doesn't feel like a normal city. You are under surveillance the whole time you're there. I wanted to go out for a little practice run before the marathon because we were there for 8 days and it had to be pre-organised 2 days in advance. And they followed me in the car, which was fantastic that I managed to get out, but of course no Strava, anything like that, because there's no sort of connection to the outside world. So I was just going based off time on my watch. I'm like, okay, 20 minutes, cool. That's like a 2.5 mile run, a little taper ahead of the marathon. The town, the city, visually very, very impressive. But the more you look into it, scrape back the layers, you realise there's some really interesting things going on. We weren't allowed to visit any of the local shops. There's a shop, but it is for tourists. So everything's very separated and segregated and there's no stopping in between. You hop in the car, you're taken to a location, you stay on location and you leave. So it was as if pretty much everywhere we went, it was set up to be seen. We did get some special treatment, which was fantastic, which enabled us to see some really unique and different things, like delving into the lives of the athletes and how the athletes train. And that's what's going to be really cool when it comes out, is because it's some stuff that's never been seen before. So we went into an Olympic gold medalist weightlifting house and saw how he lives with his family, and he lives in this particular way because he's won a medal and he's won a medal for the country. So
do they get like, because you hear all these like when you're at the Olympic Games and you're talking to other nations, like so like at Rio we don't get any like direct bonus. At London you got a bit of a direct bonus from like Royal Mail or something that. Like the Italians get like €1 million, and then you hear about the kind of Eastern countries and the Asian countries, and then these guys get gifted like brand new BMW X5s, like massive house, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to give too much away about the documentary, but was he pretty much given the country's resources as like a thank you for his sporting achievement?
Yeah, pretty much you can say that, but downsize it as to what you would imagine, because, it's a poor country.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was living, maybe similar to someone would hear that was on housing benefits.
Oh, okay.
But with his whole family in the house. And that was considered
pretty plush.
Yeah, the elitist. He is a part of the elitist out there. So it's poor.
Wow.
I can't wait for
I can't wait for the documentary.
When is it coming out?
It's on the 23rd of September. I'll invite you now if you like.
Day after my birthday.
Ooh.
Don't make it all about you. There's a screening in London, isn't there?
Yes, there is a screening.
Which I don't think we'll be inviting everyone who's listening to the podcast. But so I can't wait. Like one of my favourite documentaries was ever done in North Korea was it was a Danish film crew.
Okay.
And they took, one of the documentary makers had cerebral palsy. So his speech wasn't that great. And basically he could say whatever he wanted because they were like, the chances of them having someone who speaks like Korean and Danish are pretty slim.
Yeah.
But what's more, the chances of them being able to understand someone with CP speaking Danish is next to nil.
Yeah.
So he's through this whole documentary just saying whatever the fuck he wants.
Really?
Yeah, it's so cool because like that one of the minders will come up and say, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's great." And then he'll turn to camera and be like, This is all set up. This is fucking shit. Yada yada yada. All this kind of stuff.
Way.
And they got away with it. They got out of the country. All good.
Could have gone terribly wrong.
I was definitely a bit scared, especially in my first long form interview, of what I could and couldn't say. And I think that's what's quite interesting about the doc. You see, you sort of acclimatise to the environment. So my initial, coming into the country, it was a bit of a shock. A little bit nervous, acclimatized more for the second interview, and was a lot more open and sort of really delve into things there.
So did they do like a post interview once you were out of the country? And
No.
Okay, so all the content's filmed in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty interesting to see how you respond under those terms, I guess. Yeah.
Especially seeing as they spent 5 hours in my bedroom the first morning because I moved into the film crew spare room, because when we arrived at the 30-story hotel, I'll have you know, which had no people in it, we were all on separate floors, and I was like, I don't want to be on my own floor, far away from everyone without a phone.
Is that the famous hotel that everyone talks about? Like, it's their centerpiece of the whole city?
No. That's not actually finished yet. I did see that one.
But it's not been finished since the 80s. Like, it's
it looks good. It looks good from the outside.
But yeah, okay.
Fair play to the architect. But I didn't want to stay in a room on my own floor, so ended up moving into the crew camera room, the spare room next to one of the filmers, because they wouldn't move my room. And so then that meant the next day they spent 5 hours searching the equipment.
Really?
Yeah.
And are you doing the whole like James Bond thing of like tapping on mirrors to see if there's anyone in there, like looking through and
let's just
picking up the base of like lampshades and seeing if there's anything in there and all that kind of stuff?
Let's just say the first 2 nights I slept with the lights on and one eye open.
Jeez.
Really?
Oh. That sounds incredible. I honestly, I'd love it.
I was literally like this.
No, I would love to go. Like, genuinely. Like, I think it costs quite a lot of money to go in as a tourist, but like, mate, I would love it.
You should go and do the marathon.
I can't run to save my life.
All right, there's a 10K.
Yeah, I could do that.
Do the 10. I think you'd struggle.
I'll go back. I'd go again.
Did they have the renter crowd at the side of the road?
Oh yeah.
So that's something we tend to see in like Moscow or something like that. Is like they'll bring in the military and they'll fill the stands.
Oh yeah,
and then they all kind of clap in unison whenever a Russian athlete does well or something like that.
The stadium was full to the brim.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
They'd been there since 5 a.m.
Oh mate, I can't wait for that. Yeah, so let's plow on. So I guess one of the other things as well. So like you did a lot of motocross as a kid, but you actually still ride motorbikes today.
I do.
As do I. Cautious Carol has talked about it a lot, but hasn't got into it just yet.
I'm gonna get my motorbike.
No, you're not. You're not.
I will.
You're not.
I guarantee you. We can bet.
How much do you want to bet?
Carol, I reckon you should do it as soon as you.
Call me Carol, please.
Steady Eddie.
As soon as you finished your Olympic gold bid, that's what I did.
I need to finish my personal training first, and then I do my motorbike license.
Yeah, but you're never going to finish your personal. This is a guy who talked about getting a driving license for 3 years until he finally got it.
Okay, yeah, you just got to go and do it, knock it out.
Yeah.
Bam, bam, bam.
In his first driving lesson, he came back into the flat.
That's a classic.
No, genuinely, this is true. I've got backing on this. Like, all my flatmates say this. So he came back into the flat. And he was like, fuck, mate, driving's easy. I mean, like, the driving instructor said I'm the next Colin McRae, apparently, like legendary rally driver and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, why do I need lessons? I'm good to go.
Cautious Carol.
Thanks, mate. I can't remember it happening. You just came out with the Colin McRae thing?
No, that's genuinely true. I was more taken aback than anyone that you actually knew who Colin McRae was.
Hey, I'm a good driver, to be fair.
Are you? Okay. But so I guess one of the things that I found about like motorbike, there's actually quite a few guys on the team that ride bikes. So like Ed Clancy does some trials. He's got like a Ducati road bike as well and all that kind of stuff. I've got a Triumph Street Cup, which is really nice. We're both sponsored by Triumph as well. But I actually felt like it made me like a bit of a better cyclist as well. Have you found any kind of like crossover as well between? I guess you've experienced bikes from such a young age. Maybe it did have an impact.
I think it's just like overall awareness, body awareness, and especially when you take it on the road. I mean, it's the same as cycling on the road, apart from you're operating a bigger machine. So timings and stuff just have to be better, and you have to be so switched on. But yeah, there's nothing better than when you're like out on the open road and you can just coast, and it's a real like switch off, no phones, no distraction.
What bike did you get from Triumph?
I've got the bobber.
Oh, the bobber.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Riding
I
low.
keep trying to twist the arm into getting like a street triple or something like that, but we'll see.
Yeah, you need a bigger bike.
Well, you keep saying I look too small in it.
Yeah.
Like,
No. The bike looks too small for you. You look like a giant on it.
I am 6 foot. I'm 6'2". I'm a tall man.
You're not 6'2".
I'm genuinely 6'2". I've measured it. Kian says he's 6'2" for Tinder purposes, and that's wrong.
How tall is he?
Cyclists all on Tinder, are they?
One of them is.
How about Raya?
But like, no. So like, he says he's 6'2", but he's not. He's genuinely not. I'm 188 centimeters. That's 6'2".
Is that?
Don't bring your short man syndrome into the podcast.
I don't even know how tall. I'm like 178 centimeters. I don't like count in foot.
Oh, you're so European.
Yeah. I've grown up with like measuring everything in centimeters.
I'm confused, having lived in America. So, a bit of feet and everything. Multi, with the
bilingual.
With the temperature. Is it degrees or Fahrenheit? I do like Fahrenheit in the summer. Makes it seem hotter than it actually is.
It does. Gets all the hits. And like, what's coming up for you like next in the next couple of months? So
I've just started hosting a new series for Red Bull. At the minute, we are in deliberation of the name. But for now, it's Red Bull resized. So I was actually interviewing a 5-time world champion BMX rider.
Okay.
I've got my premiere coming up, and I'm working on a sort of fitness series to come out in September to inspire people to move. I did my yoga qualification in November last year. So just sort of utilizing my passion and my skill set to kind of develop a bit of content to share my love of good movement, along with sort of preparing for the winter, really. Get some good backcountry missions underway. Last year, did a great trip to Japan. This year, planning on venturing out into the Canadian backcountry. Awesome. So for those that don't know, backcountry is going off piste. So you pack your bag and you go out there for the day. You leave as soon as the light is up, and you stay out till the light has gone. And we film and create content riding natural terrain. So like dropping cliffs and riding tree features. And
there's an element of danger in that in terms of like avalanches and bears and shit like that.
Yeah, of course. So we all go out fully like with beacons, shovels, probes, and you have to know what you're doing. So I'm still, at the early phases of this stage of my snowboard career. I've probably done about 6 backcountry trips. But last year I went with Robin Van Gin, who's like 10 years older than me and has so much experience. So in that world, there's still so much to learn. So just training to be as fit and as diverse as I can be when I'm in that environment.
You get like flown in with a helicopter and stuff like this.
If you've got the budget, sometimes there's a heli drop. Last year we did catboarding. It's where you go in like a sort of old Tonka track on
nice.
What are those things called?
Nice.
Like sled track things.
That would have been your life if you stayed in the German army. They love those things.
Yeah. Literally, they're it's like an army
like a
truck.
Tank.
Tank that takes you out, and it's got snowcat tires on it, and it drops you, like sort of 3 hours out into the outback, and you go and find the best sort of lines. And essentially, as a snowboarder, it's always been my goal to be able to go and do that. So
I'd just like to say as well, congratulations on a far more subtle plug of Red Bull than we managed on a podcast 2 weeks ago, where Joe Clark said he got meningitis when he's 15, and it wasn't the antibiotics that saved him. The doctor told him to drink Red Bull, which is a funny coincidence given that he's sponsored by them.
Oh, no way. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by them, but I've been doing a little bit more hosting and presenting throughout the summer. Obviously, summer's winter sport. So actually having my first summer off snow in 11 years. So giving the body a bit of rest and delving into some other exciting opportunities which are formulating.
And in terms of like the kind of trail stuff that you're doing, in your mind, is that kind of like, is that what you enjoy the most in a way? Because that's the purest form of like snowboarding.
Yeah, it's the most organic form of snowboarding. You're out there in the element and there's no lifts. If you want to do another run, you hike and, you earn your turns is what we say in snowboarding. So
that's good for you, Phil. Another term you've picked up. There's no e-bikes on the side of a mountain. Okay, so, and if people want to keep up to date with you and follow you and all that kind of stuff, you got a shout out for your Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, 100%. You can follow me on the gram. It's Aimee, AIMEE _Fuller. And then I also have a series, a YouTube vlog called Fuller Life, sort of documenting the random activities that I get up to day to day, whether it be fitness challenges or taking people on random excursions, whether it be wake surfing or snowboarding.
Hey, we're going wake surfing next time. That's what you said to me.
Yeah, before our next BOA Athletes Commission
Don't
meeting.
take Steady Eddie though. He'll just be a nervous.
Have you ever been wakeboarding or
I've been
water skiing?
I've been water skiing. Yeah.
We can turn up at the BOA meeting like a dishevelled, wet, salty mess.
Have you ever been skiing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's safe. Yeah. It's safe as well. Wake surfing. It's so nice. Like no impact. Like really cruisy, free movement. I love it. It's good.
Phil used to be a big cross country skier. Classic German.
Oh yeah. Of course you did. The iron, lungs of iron here.
We used to do it as a training camp in Germany. Just go cross country skiing for 3 days and then 3 days downhill skiing.
That sounds brutal.
I mean,
it's good fun.
Yeah, okay.
Good fun. That sounds like it would absolutely toast me.
Yeah, it was pretty hard. So the cross country. I think we just
seems like you like pain.
No, you've gotten totally wrong.
Yeah,
this is what you'll find. Okay, sorry. we gave Phil a hard time in the last podcast, so I won't do it again.
Okay.
Tell you off air.
Let's keep it PG.
Let's keep it civil. But yeah, and then ironically, you ended up moving to a team which in your contract says you can't do any snow sports.
Yeah. I still went skiing after the London Games, but I sold it as a cross-country skiing. But
Nice.
I'm safe.
You're safe, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
of
safe
course.
now.
Yeah, but
Scale's always fine.
it's not about you. It's about the other people on the mountain.
I'm a good skier.
Yeah, I know, but someone can get you when you least expect it. Boom, done. It's happened to me twice.
Really? Just wipe you out.
Really bad. Like lucky to be alive kind of style. You get people that are out of control. I'm just minding my own business, working on my like pedal turns, really trying to, work the board into the snow, early morning. Some guy comes from the top, full speed, totally out of control, wipes me flat.
The worst thing is there are a lot of drunk guys at the end of the day as well.
That's why I want to go skiing. I just want to get absolutely smashed, just ski through the day, get straight into a bar.
See, yourself. I've never got to experience that side of the sport because
winter time. Liam Phillips has got a place in Switzerland.
Okay, cool.
And Jess Varnish.
Thanks for the invite. See you there, guys.
Well, have the baby on the papoose. It'll all be fine.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, Aimee. Well, it's been fantastic having you on. Thank you very much. We're not sure who we got on next week, actually. It'll be a nice surprise.
Yeah, we'll see.
We will see. So thanks for tuning in. And as usual, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've also got a new website, so check that out as well.
Yeah.
Or hopefully by that point. I have no idea.
Podcrash.co.uk.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Banging.
Oh, you're in the loop, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so tune in next week. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.